Today is kind of a test run for this wonderful corporation. They've got wind technicians here, wind studies, all those wind turbines, but there's no wind. So now I know why they asked me to come and give a speech. As president, I will have to deal with the same set of facts. I will not shirk the mantle of leadership that the United States bears. I will not permit 8 long years to pass without serious action on serious challenges. Today, my friends, I'd like to focus on just one of those challenges. And among environmental dangers, it's surely the most serious of all. Whether we call it climate change or global warming, in the end, we're all left with the same set of facts. There are vital measures we can take in the short term, even as we focus on long-term policies to mitigate the effects of global warming. In the years ahead, we're likely to see reduced water supplies, more forest fires than in previous decades, changes in crop production, more heat waves afflicting our cities, and a greater intensity in storms. Each one of those consequences of climate change will require policies to protect our citizens, especially those most vulnerable to violent weather. Each one will require new precautions in the repair and construction of our roads, bridges, railways, seawalls, and other infrastructure. Some states and local governments have already begun their planning and preparation for extreme events and other impacts of climate change. The federal government can help them in many ways, above all by coordinating their efforts, and I'm committed to providing that support. We know that greenhouse gases are heavily implicated as a cause of climate change, and we know that among all greenhouse gases, the worst by far is the carbon dioxide that results from fossil fuel combustion. Yet for all the good work of entrepreneurs and inventors in finding cleaner and better technologies, the fundamental incentives of the market are still on the side of carbon-based energy. This has to change before we can make the decisive shift away from fossil fuels. For the market to do more, government must do more by opening new paths of invention and ingenuity. And we must do this in a way that gives American businesses new incentives and new rewards to seek, instead of just giving them new taxes to pay and new orders to follow. What better way to correct past errors than to turn the creative energies of the free market in the other direction? Under the cap-and-trade system, this can happen. In all its power, the profit motive will suddenly begin to shift and point the other way toward cleaner fuels, wiser ways, and a healthier planet. As a program under the Clean Air Act, the cap-and-trade system achieved enormous success in ridding the air of acid rain. And the same approach that brought a decline in sulfur dioxide emissions can have an equally dramatic and permanent effect on carbon emissions. Instantly, automakers, coal companies, power plants, and every other enterprise in America would have an incentive to reduce carbon emissions, because when they go under those limits, they can sell the balance of permitted emissions for cash. As never before, the market would reward any person or company that seeks to invent, improve, or acquire alternatives to carbon-based energy. It's very hard to picture venture capitalists, corporate planners, and small business and environmentalists all working to the same good purpose. But such cooperation is actually possible in the case of climate change, and this reform will set it in motion. As we move toward all of these goals, and over time put the age of fossil fuels behind us, we must consider every alternative source of power, and that includes nuclear power. When our cap-and-trade policy is in place, there will be a sudden and sustained pursuit in the market for new investment opportunities in low-emission fuel sources. And here we have a known, proven energy source that requires exactly 0 emissions. We have, in this country, 104 nuclear reactors, generating about 20% of our electricity. These reactors alone spare the atmosphere from about 700 million metric tons of carbon dioxide that would otherwise be released every year. That's the annual equivalent of nearly all emissions from all the cars we drive in America. The United States will lead, and will lead with a different approach, an approach that speaks to the interests and obligation of every nation. Shared dangers mean shared duties, and global problems require global cooperation. The United States and our friends in Europe cannot alone deal with the threat of global warming. No nation should be exempted from its obligations. We will apply the principle of equal treatment. We will apply the same environmental standards to industries in China, India, and elsewhere that we apply to our own. And if industrializing countries seek an economic advantage by evading those standards, I would work with the European Union and other like-minded governments that plan to address the global warming problem to develop effective diplomacy, effective transfer of technology, or other means to engage those countries that decline to enact a similar cap. Like other environmental challenges, only more so, global warming presents a test of foresight, of political courage, and of the unselfish concern that one generation owes to the next. We need to think straight about the dangers ahead, and to meet the problem with all the resources of human ingenuity at our disposal. We Americans like to say there's no problem we can't solve, however complicated, and no obstacle we can't overcome if we meet it together. I believe this is about our country. I know this is about our country. And now it's time for us to show those qualities once again. Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to be here today.